Good morning. We're now presenting to you our project for the computer vision course. The team is Ahmed Abu Talib and myself, Ismail Shirawi. Our project for today is plant disease classification using MobileNet version 2.
First, I'm going to present our abstract view. We intend to use plant village dataset as our dataset, which is going to be discussed later in our presentation. For now, this dataset has 38 classes of plants. There are many machine learning models that were used on this dataset. However, in our methodology, we are only going to use MobileNetV2. There are many reasons we used MobileNet version 2, which are going to be discussed later. MobileNet version 2 was trained with many combinations of plant village datasets with 3 color spaces, RGB, HSV, and CIE lab, segmented and unsegmented images, and 2 models based on MobileNet V2. RGB unsegmented images produced the best results with an accuracy of 96.91%. For segmentation, the best algorithm was HSV conversion with thresholding.
And now we're going to present why we used MobileNet version 2. The main reason we used this network was because it is a lightweight network. It can be used on mobile devices. The reason MobileNet is a lightweight network is because it used depth-wise separable convolution instead of traditional convolution. Depth-wise separable convolution is divided into 2 main parts. The first is the depth-wise convolution, and the second is the point-wise convolution. In depth-wise convolution, there is a kernel for each layer or each channel. That kernel is separate than the kernels for other channels. The result of the depth-wise convolution is n layers for an n-layer input. After depth-wise convolution, the next step is point-wise convolution. In point-wise convolution, as illustrated in the figure shown, there is a kernel that has the same depth as the input matrix. The convolution operation is performed across the whole depth of the matrix, not only a single layer. The output will be a single layer, and to have n layers as an output, there must be n kernels. That makes the MobileNet much faster, and the number of multiplications is much less than traditional convolution.
Another part of our literature review is very important to demonstrate. Deep learning can be used to perform semantic segmentation of a picture into a background and a foreground. This can be done by training a network on the dataset that is allocated with an exact pixel level boundary of each object in the dataset. One of the famous models used is FGSegNet. FGSegNet is an encoder-decoder network, which means that the input to the network is bottlenecked into a smaller feature space. This phase is called encoding. Then, this feature map is expanded back to the original size. The way this works is that encoders are made out of convolution neural networks, followed by transposed convolution neural networks. The TCNN performs the opposite of what CNN does. When it comes to FGSegNet, specifically, 3 pre-trained VGG16 neural networks are used in parallel as encoders. After the features are extracted, another network is used for the encoder. The 3 VGG16 versions of the network receive the same image, but with different scale factors. The dataset used to train this network is CDNet 2014, which included 11 different scenarios. Some of them including bad weather, camera jitter, and night videos. The output of the network is a binary mask that separates foreground and background. We tried using this method on plant village dataset for semantic segmentation. However, we only used it for inference and then trained the dataset on it. The reason that this network was not trained on the plant village is because there's no ground truth for semantic segmentation. The result produced from this run were the worst among the 3 methods presented. The reason for that is probably that the network was trained that trees are a part of the background. A possibility for a solution to that might be training the network from scratch, starting with random weights on the plant village dataset. However, this time, the data has not been annotated. A possible solution for this problem would be using the segmented part of the dataset as ground truth. However, this was never tested before on the plant village dataset. There was a better approach for segmenting the images, which are depending on traditional computer vision rather than machine learning. That approach converted the image into HSV space, then selected only a certain threshold from the values of the pixels. That threshold depended on the values of the pixels that made green leaves visible and the background invisible.
Concerning our methodology, we used two models in our experiments. We used MobileNet version 2 with additional layers as shown in the table. However, in the first model, we made only the additional layers trainable. In the second model, we made the last 50 layers of MobileNet version 2 trainable. The first model is going to be referred to as transfer learning, and the second model is going to be referred to as fine-tuning. The number of trainable parameters was much larger for the fine-tuning as shown in the diagram. We also used three color spaces: the HSV color space, the RGB color space, and the CIE lab color space. RGB color space is the red, green, blue, and it's the color space that is familiar to humans. CIE lab expresses color as three values: L star for perceptual lightness, and A star and B star for four unique colors of human vision: red, green, blue, and yellow. HSV stands for hue, saturation, and value, where hue is the color, saturation is the percentage of lightness in the color, value is the percentage of blackness in the color. The reason these color spaces were chosen is that they are close to the color space of the human eye.
We used the Plant Village dataset, which consisted of Plant Village is a dataset that is publicly available that has 38 classes. Each class represents a plant with specific disease. The dataset features 14 plant species and 26 different diseases. There are 54,306 images in this dataset. Each image features only a single plant leaf. The original dataset is not segmented, which means that the background is not removed.
As you can see in the table, we carried out 12 experiments. The experiment that produced the best results was that of the RGB colored image that used the fine-tuning. The classification accuracy was 96.91. The CIE lab results are not good representatives due to the low number of epochs. The general trend is that the segmented images perform better than unsegmented ones, which are the colored images. The more promising color space was HSV. As you can see in the graphs on the right column, the results for the HSV were not as good as those for the RGB. However, an accuracy of almost 90% is good. And if we increase the number of epochs, the results will even get better. The reason for that is that the HSV is closer to the human eye than the CIE lab space.
To conclude, the results that have been obtained in the paper show that MobileNetV2 are promising networks in the field of plant disease classification and can be actually relied on for real-life application. Our best model achieves an accuracy of 96.91%, and that is us when we use the RGB color space using unsegmented images on the testing set when classifying images into 38 different classes. This is a reliable value to be used by farmers, especially that farmers would normally be using this application over a small set of plant classes. So for a lower class problem, higher accuracies would be expected even more. Even though out of our model does not exceed the 99.44 that was achieved by the state-of-the-art ResNet50 model, it is still better since it is usable in real-life mobile applications. We have also observed the different segmentation methods that can be used on this problem. This is very important because when the model is to be deployed, it would perform the best when the images are fed in the form of segmented images. Traditional computer vision techniques of color segmentation produces the most reliable results.
And now we're going to provide some recommendations for future research. It's recommended to try different lower class problems based on the locations in which the research is being conducted to make sure that the relevant classes don't overcomplicate the model. Also, further fine-tuning of hyperparameters, changing the network architecture, expanding the dataset can be done to try to achieve higher accuracies. The newly emerged MobileNet V3 should be tried since it is the new state-of-the-art model for mobile applications and embedded systems. We finally recommend the usage of deep learning methods for segmentation, like FG-SegNet neural network mentioned earlier, and the algorithm that was mentioned earlier for training the Plant Village dataset on this model. Thanks for listening, and we'd be happy to answer any of your questions.